It's 9:47 p.m. You're sitting in your car outside a store, staring at your banking app, deciding whether the $43 in your cart is safe to swipe. Toothpaste, laundry detergent, a birthday card. Nothing irresponsible. Still, you hesitate. You run the numbers in your head. If this clears, rent is fine. If not, things get tight. At that exact moment, your coworker with the same salary just posted another beach photo. Same job, same city, same paycheck, but their life looks smooth, relaxed, unpressured. You're calculating overdraft risk while they're booking flights. It feels like there must be a secret. Inheritance, hidden income, debt masked by filters. But in most cases, the difference is far less dramatic. It's one boring decision made years ago. It took maybe 20 minutes to set up. Then it ran quietly in the background. That decision costs about $500 a month, and over time, it compounds into something that looks like magic. The only difference. Imagine two 28-year-olds earning $65,000 per year. Same city, same cost of living, same starting line. Person A sets up an automatic investment of $500 per month into a low-cost index fund tracking the S&P 500. The money leaves their account on the first of every month, no debate, no emotion. Person B spends that same $500 on structural lifestyle upgrades, a slightly newer car, slightly higher rent, slightly more convenience. Nothing extreme, just incremental comfort. For the first 5 years, there's no visible difference between them. They both feel financially normal, but time begins separating them quietly. By age 35, person A has over $100,000 invested. Person B has maybe $25,000. By age 45, the gap widens into the hundreds of thousands. By 55, the difference starts determining retirement options. By 65, one has flexibility and freedom, while the other calculates how many more years they need to work. The income was identical, the trajectory was not. The real math, using realistic assumptions. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned around 10% annually before inflation. After inflation, long-term real returns average closer to 7%. Using 7% keeps this grounded. If you invest $500 per month for 40 years at a 7% real return, you end up with roughly $1.2 to $1.3 million in today's purchasing power. Over those 40 years, you personally contributed $240,000. Nearly $1 million of that final amount came purely from growth. That's the part people underestimate. You are not saving your way to wealth. You are compounding your way there. The first decade feels slow. After 10 years, you may have under $100,000. After 20 years, around $250,000. After 30 years, roughly $600,000. Then something shifts. The portfolio begins growing faster from returns than from your contributions. That's when compounding becomes visible. Money eventually grows faster than you can add to it. Why starting early beats contributing more. Here's where the math becomes uncomfortable. Imagine someone invests $5,000 per year from age 25 to 35, then stops completely. They invested $50,000 total. Now imagine another person waits until age 35 and invests $5,000 per year until 65, contributing $150,000 total. Despite contributing 3 times more money, the late starter often ends up with less wealth than the early investor. Compound interest does not reward effort as much as it rewards time. Early dollars have decades to multiply. Late dollars don't. Waiting 10 years doesn't just delay growth, it permanently shrinks your final outcome. The longer compounding has to work, the less you personally have to contribute. The crash objection. A reasonable concern is market crashes. Markets do fall, sometimes sharply, but long-term diversified investing has historically recovered from downturns over extended periods. Over rolling 20-year periods in modern history, real returns for broad U.S. equity markets have remained positive. For someone investing $500 every month, downturns are not disastrous. They are discounted buying opportunities. When markets fall 30%, your $500 buys more ownership than it did the month before. This process, known as dollar-cost averaging, works precisely because you are not trying to predict short-term movements. The biggest long-term wealth destroyer has not been crashes. It has been investors panicking and exiting during those crashes. The $500 you think you don't have. Most people respond by saying they simply don't have $500, but in many cases, the leak is structural. The average new car payment in recent years exceeds $700 per month. That one decision alone can absorb the entire $500 before subscriptions or dining out even enter the picture. That car payment is not just $700 today. Over decades, the capital redirected away from investing can represent hundreds of thousands, potentially over $1 million in lost compounded wealth. Every $100 invested monthly grows into roughly $226,000 over 40 years at 7% real returns. Every $100 consistently spent on depreciating assets compounds to zero. This isn't about eliminating all comfort. It's about recognizing which recurring expenses quietly determine your financial trajectory. The behavioral trap. The math is straightforward. The challenge is psychological. Humans are wired for present bias. Immediate comfort feels more important than distant security. Loss aversion makes short-term portfolio drops feel unbearable, even when long-term growth remains intact. Lifestyle inflation absorbs raises before they become assets. Wealth requires overriding instincts that evolved for short-term survival. It requires designing systems that remove daily decision-making. Why boring wins. Financial marketing thrives on excitement, stock picking, timing, predictions, complexity. But long-term wealth accumulation has historically favored simple, diversified, low-cost strategies. Firms like Vanguard, Fidelity Investments, and Charles Schwab offer index funds with extremely low fees that track the overall market. Fees matter more than most investors realize. Even a 1% difference in annual costs can reduce retirement wealth by hundreds of thousands over decades. The strategy that works is rarely dramatic. It is mechanical. Automate contributions, diversify broadly, minimize costs, stay consistent. Let time do the rest. The two futures. Now, imagine two versions of yourself 40 years from today. One version opens their account and sees over $1 million in inflation-adjusted wealth. Work is optional. Emergencies are manageable. Retirement is a decision, not a fear. The other version checks their balance and feels tension. Savings are thin. Retirement depends heavily on limited benefits. Work continues longer than expected. Neither version became wealthy or broke because of intelligence. They diverged because one consistently redirected $500 into productive assets, while the other let that same amount dissolve into lifestyle maintenance. $500 a month is not magic. It is mathematics applied patiently. The difference between financial fragility and financial stability isn't income, it's trajectory. If you automate $500 monthly into diversified assets and allow decades to pass, the outcome becomes statistically powerful. If you delay, the required contribution rises and the timeline shrinks. Time is the multiplier. Discipline is the input. 40 years from now, one version of you will look back and think, it was simpler than I thought. The other will think, I assumed I had more time. The difference between those two lives is not luck. It's whether you redirected $500 and let compounding work quietly in your favor, or let time work against you. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon.